it's Nancy with Nancy's Nibbles of Life, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, again, welcome. My name is Nancy, and I'm on the WW Personal Points program. My 0-point foods are eggs, popcorn, corn, fruits, vegetables, beans, lean chicken, and turkey, along with fish and shellfish. So, welcome to the channel. I have a great recipe for you today. Speaking of fish, simple salmon patties. Where I'm from, they also call them salmon croquettes. I love this recipe. Again, it's very simple, only a few ingredients, but this is such a treat for lunch because it feels really hearty, and you could also have it for breakfast along with a few eggs. So this recipe is great because it comes with a homemade tartar sauce, and the tartar sauce is only one personal point. You got to see how this recipe comes together. So I'm going to demonstrate the recipe for you, give you the measurements, and of course I'll link the recipe below in my description box, or I'll write it out for you in the description box below. But let's get into this great recipe, and you can learn more about the points and how to put it together, and I'll see you back here at the end of the video. Okay, let's get started on our salmon patties. I'm using a red salmon. That's a 14.75 ounce can of red salmon. I'm also using 1 whole egg, 1/4 of a cup of diced onion. I'm using 8 saltine crackers, no salt added, 3 tablespoons of a light mayo, and 1 tablespoon of a yellow mustard. I'm also using this Tony Chachere's Creole Seasoning. I'm using about 1/4 of a tablespoon of that, 1/8 of a tablespoon of both salt and pepper. Okay, let's open our salmon. Again, I'm using this red salmon, but you can also use pink salmon in this recipe. And we want to drain our can of salmon. We don't want the added liquid in our patties. So once you drain your salmon, you'll see that it comes out in this chunk form, this whole chunk form. So you want to kind of flake it and remove any bones that you see. Now these bones are pretty fine, so if you don't get all of them, I'm sure you'll be okay. But go ahead and remove as many as you can. And the bigger bones are pretty obvious, so just take your time and go through it, remove any bones, and then you want to flake your your salmon. All right, let's add our mayo and our mustard to our bowl of salmon here that we have kind of flaked into smaller chunks or spooned into smaller chunks, however you consider that. Let's add our onion. I'm using red onion here, but you could also use white or yellow. Let's also add our egg and our crackers. So I'm using 8 no salt added saltine crackers. The reason I'm using the no salt added crackers is because, you have to remember that the salmon, the canned salmon, has sodium. And you're also seasoning your patties with a little bit of salt and pepper and that Creole seasoning. So you just want to watch your salt intake. If you only have the saltine crackers, no worries. Just adjust your salt intake. All right, let's give our mix a good stir. We want to ensure that those crackers and that onion and your mayo and mayonnaise are mixed thoroughly together. Get those ingredients. It looks kind of like a tuna, doesn't it? That's probably why I said that. Okay, now let's add our Creole seasoning. And I am eyeballing this, but it's probably about 1/4 of a tablespoon of that seasoning. We're going to use 1/8 of a teaspoon of a salt and pepper. And if you don't have the Creole seasoning, Old Bay seasoning would really be good in this as well. Or maybe just a paprika, garlic powder, some old salt and pepper, just as well. All right, I have 1/4 of a cup of yellow cornmeal. I'm going to show you how I create these patties. So I have spread out about a tablespoon of the yellow cornmeal on a slice of parchment paper or a piece of parchment paper. And I am just grabbing enough of our mix to make 4 pretty good sized patties. So once you have your mix, you could divide it by 4. And then I'm just plopping my formed patty onto that cornmeal on the parchment paper. And what it does is collects that cornmeal on both sides of your patty. So you don't have to make a mess when you're adding your cornmeal. This is just an easy way of doing it, I think. So there we are, 4 salmon patties. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the refrigerator because I want them to get a little bit firm on me, and refrigerating them will allow that to happen. All right, so now that our patty has kind of formed on us, I'm going to go ahead and add some cooking spray to one side of our patty, and I am going to add a liner to my air fryer. I'm cooking this salmon patty on 400 degrees in my air fryer. Alrighty, we're gonna check on that salmon patty in about 6 minutes. Let's move on to our tartar sauce. I love a homemade tartar sauce. It's so delicious and it saves you so many points. This recipe serves 4 and it's only 1 point a serving. So to 3 tablespoons of a light mayonnaise, we're adding 2 tablespoons of a minced onion. You want to dice your onion very thin. You're also using 2 tablespoons of a dill pickle. And these are just hamburger dill pickle chips that I've cut up pretty finely and added it to my mayo and onions. And I'm also squeezing 1/2 of a fresh lemon into the mixture, so maybe a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. And I'm also adding 1 teaspoon of a yellow mustard. It just adds to the tanginess of our tartar sauce. And 1 dash of hot sauce, your favorite hot sauce. I love the Louisiana brand, but use whatever you have or omit it if you are sensitive to spices. But it really does add a bit of a touch to this tartar sauce. We're going to give that a nice stir. Make sure all of your ingredients are incorporated nicely. Get that yellow mustard mixed into that really, really well. All right, let's go ahead and add more of that Creole seasoning that I used earlier. And that is about 1/8 of a tablespoon of seasoning. And I'm also using 1/8 of a teaspoon of Lawry's seasoned salt. And I'm also using some dried parsley flakes. And this is also 1/8 of a teaspoon of those parsley flakes, and giving it a good stir. All right, now that our tartar sauce is nice and seasoned, we have one last ingredient that we're going to add, and it's capers. Capers add such an impressive touch to your homemade tartar sauce. It really does bring out that tanginess of a tartar sauce. So delicious. This is 1 tablespoon of a caper, and you don't have to chop it. You can chop it if you want, but just give it a nice stir. The capers are pretty tiny and they burst in your mouth as you take a bite. Really good. And there it is. Refrigerate that tartar sauce for about a half an hour before you serve it, and it sets up nicely. Okay, so we flipped our salmon patties and added a little bit more of a cooking spray to them and cooked them for another 7 to 8 minutes. Nice and crispy looking. Moving the camera so you can get a better angle. There we go. All right, nice and crispy. So the total cook time on these patties was about 15 minutes. All right, I'm adding my patties to a mixed green salad. Let that patty cool for a little bit. It's nice and crispy. Look at that yellow cornmeal you can see on top where it's gotten so crispy on you. And then we're gonna add a little bit of our homemade tartar sauce on top. It makes for a really nice presentation. This is a delicious salmon patty lunch. Our patties came out to 3 points a piece using the recipe. And again, that tartar sauce was 1 point. Really, really nice. I hope that you give this recipe a try. I'll leave the recipe for you down in the description box. Well, what did you think of that recipe? I love that tartar sauce on that recipe. I make it any chance that I get. And I love the warm patty against the cool salad. But again, you can have those for breakfast. And it's really kind of a southern treat. Salmon croquette and eggs. Your family would probably really love that. And at only 3 points a patty, you can't beat that. So I hope that you make it, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And don't forget, the recipe is in the description box below. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow and get me to my next few subscribers, which is what I really need. And guess what, guys? I will see you on the next video. Bye!